actual first Navigate podcast, and I'm doing it with my amazing, fine chocolate, bald-headed, tall, thick-witted, Ben Tankard. Yes, baby. Hey.
Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. We are super excited about the Navigate Destiny.
I know. This is so cool. This is like such a pivot for us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, like, we've done a lot of things, but we've never done a podcast together.
And podcasting is the wave of the future. It's like the new personal computer.
Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful for this avenue, this platform, so we can take our message outside the walls of the church and into your homes and into your hearts. And let's have the conversation. We got some people that we're going to interview tonight, see what's going on in the navigations of their life and see what's going on.
Hey, Eugene.
Hey. Hello.
Okay, so Eugene, you so don't have to be nervous. Just act like we're on the couch at the crib.
Okay.
But like you've made a lot of pivots in your life. So first, I guess even before we get into pivot, I want to say I think we're in a day and time now where everything is changing. It doesn't matter what you are. If you're a mom, if you're a wife, husband, CEO, you work a job, like I don't care what area of life you're in, you probably are experiencing a pivot. And I feel like I want to stay in control as much as I can of the pivots because I think you're either going to change willingly or you're going to end up finding yourself in pain and very uncomfortable because the world is totally changing around us. So Eugene, if you would have to define what pivoting is, just even from your standpoint, what is it? And then honey, I want to hear what your definition is.
Well, I would say a pivot, especially in the vernacular we're using now, is just completely doing something that you're not normally doing, right? A complete change in your life, whether it be a job, right? A move to a different city, a new way of thinking, right? A new lifestyle, just something completely out of the norm that you're not used to doing.
Yeah, for sure. Baby, what is pivot to you?
I think of it from my experience as a ball player and a pilot. We tend to look at things through the lens of our experience. And so as a basketball player, if I'm dribbling the ball down court and my opponent cuts me off, I've got to pivot and do something differently if I'm going to score. Yeah. Same thing if I'm flying an airplane. Of course I want to go to Florida. But if there's a storm between me and Miami, I don't want to fly into that storm. And the number one cause of accidents in small aircraft is not anything wrong with the plane. It was the pilots did not pivot properly.
Yeah.
They did not recognize what was going on and make the necessary adjustments.
Yeah, and I think pivoting can be very challenging for a lot of people. We made a pivot within the last year where we sold our old church building, and because it was getting to a point where, I don't know, I almost felt like for me, like I was suffocating because I felt like the building was becoming like a money pit and I wasn't having fun doing ministry anymore. And I don't know, it just really disrupted me in a very big way. And I started to communicate that to you and I was just like, honey, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
it sent me to the couch. I'm like, we got to get rid of this. Get rid of this building. We got to get rid of this blankety blank. I'm going back to the bedroom.
I mean, but it's crazy because what happens is I think that if you don't if you don't pivot, pressure comes to really make you better, I think, ultimately. But if we did not make that pivot, I feel so much lighter. I feel so much happier. And I hope people that are watching, everybody has those pain points. And you got to start asking yourself, hey, what area do I need to pivot in? And then be honest with yourself. Because I think I mentioned it to you a little bit, but then I got to a point where, I don't know, I just felt like I was having anxiety. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, I don't even have anxiety like that,
Right.
But it became a real thing. And so I think this conversation is important. So the more authentic we can be and the more transparent we can be, I think the more effective we can be. Eugene, what were some pivots that you made in the last year that were maybe uncomfortable to you and maybe even to some of the people that you love that are closest to you?
Yeah, I've had a few. So beginning of the year, job change, right? I was at a job for 10 years and I got to a point where I just kind of plateaued and I had to make a change, right? It's funny you guys talk about anxiety and not being happy, things not going the way you wanted to be. That's how I felt, right? And so me and my wife, we sat down, me, my wife, and my girls, we sat down and we talked about it. And we're like, we got to do something different, right? So we put a plan together. We looked at some cities. We looked at some job opportunities that I qualified for. And we narrowed it down. Then we made a decision, right? Okay, let's do this. And we, it's funny, Dr. Ben is a pilot. We jumped out the plane, right? We took that leap of faith. Not gonna say there weren't any pain points or some thoughts of regret, but before we made the decision we prayed on it, we fasted, and we felt that God put his stamp of approval on it. So
what would you say was the toughest part of making the pivot? What was the hardest part?
I would say for me, it was letting go of that old life, right? The things you're familiar with, the everyday routines, right? The things, the people you see every day, the actions you partake in every day, right? Yeah, it made me nervous. Like, can I, start a new routine? Can I reinvent myself? Can I still provide for my family in this new environment? So yeah, that brought some, it made me shaky, right?
So you definitely gave the really good spiritual answer. Y'all prayed and fasted, praise the Lord, because I'm definitely that. But from a human standpoint, was it ever tough for your wife? I mean, did you guys just was it just a glide? And it might not have been. You might say, no, we was good. But did it ever get really kind of rocky for her?
No, it actually didn't, right? So, and I wish she was here, right? For Melanie, she was kind of my muse in a way, right? She kind of kept me going in the right direction, right? So for her, she's very faith oriented, right? So for her, she believed that it would work, right? And then her part of the pivot was I'm not gonna say easier, but it was more smoother for her, right? She was able to transfer her job to here. We were able to find a nice community. Our children were able to find a good school. So I'm the one stressing and worrying and anxious, but she really wasn't.
She was good. Yeah. So was there anybody who, when you said, okay, these are the pivots we're about to make, did you have anybody that kind of tried to discourage you from that, or not really? Was everybody pretty much on board?
I wouldn't say discouraged, right? So the circle of friends and family we have were very supportive. We did have some people be like, hey, did you guys really think this through? Is this really the right decision? You know what I mean? Because, we have two daughters that are juniors in high school. It's putting them in a different school really going to be conducive to what they want to do in life. But we went back to the spiritual aspect, right? We prayed on it. We made the decision together. So we had some people kind of check us to make sure we made the right decision, but in our heart of hearts, we did.
You kind of knew what it was.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think, when you're going through, I know for me, when I was, felt like I was having anxiety attacks and crying and, the God was definitely there, but there were a couple people that God put instrumentally in my life in that time. And I think that's what you got to do. No matter what you find yourself, wherever you feel like you're pivoting, I think it's really important to just be really honest with yourself with really where you are. And not that you got to talk to a bunch of people, but have definitely one or two people that you can really have some real authentic conversations with so that you can stay healthy, right? So that you can stay healthy. Because it was conversations I was having with my honey, but then there's other times I was like, I don't want to talk to you,
Right, and I didn't want to talk to you either.
You know what I'm saying? But I think because we had people to talk to, it helped with the pivot. Because pivot sounds like, oh, you pivoted, but it can be very unsettling.
I think pivot is harder the older you get.
Yeah.
Just look at it from a basketball standpoint.
Okay, but
let me share.
All right.
From a basketball standpoint, they start calling guys old men at 28, at 30.
Right.
The guys that are younger seem to be able to pivot quicker because they're more flexible. So sometimes the older you get, the harder it is to make the pivot because you just get so used to living off of autopilot. Right. You do something so long till it just becomes part of you. Right. Now, how old are you?
44.
44, okay. So I just want you to take 5 seconds, and we want to overhear it. I want to hear you talk to the 24-year-old Eugene, and then after you give him 30 seconds of your heart, I want you to turn around and talk to the 54-year-old Eugene. And I want to hear the difference in the conversation.
Okay. All right. So 20-year younger me. All right. So Gene, you can't be afraid, man. You came this far. You got a great support system. The sky's the limit for you, right? Your future's bright. You just got to stay focused. You got to stay prayed up. You have to surround yourself with the right people, and that's it, man. Just believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself, and you'll be fine.
You are so kind to yourself. Because if I tried to my 24, you was a fool. What are you doing? You need to put that thing back in your pants. That's what got you in trouble. That's why you broke now. Lock that up. All right, talk to Mr. 54.
All right. So 10 years from now. All right. So OG,
right?
All right. So OG, make sure you spend time with your grandkids, man. Make sure that you're there in their lives and be there for your family and just be more vulnerable with them and just it's all about them. Remember that.
Okay. All right. Okay, but I have a question for you because I don't know if I totally agree. Well, I think I agree a little bit. The age does kind of play a part, but I think it's also an awareness of growth mindset versus fixed. Being aware of how flexible am I, or am I flexible at all? Or is it my way or no way? Do I resist change or do I welcome change? So I think some of it is age-based, but I think some of it is mindset. And I think like we're so aware that we have to stay flexible. I feel like I have to make changes all the time. Every day I'm making changes or figuring stuff out or tweaking stuff out. And I almost feel like, I don't know, let me ask you guys this. Do we feel like we're in a world where people are forced to make changes, or are there people really, I guess, out there who are really not making changes?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Okay, bruh.
You're way smarter.
Bruh.
Dumb it down.
Bruh.
You two men.
Okay, so, no, I'm saying, do you feel like overall, I feel like the entire world is up under change. Okay? Do you feel like most people are fighting to stay the same, or are most people knowing that they're going to have to make changes?
I think it's kind of half and half.
Right. Kind of to Doc Ben's point. I think the older guys, right, maybe the late 30s, middle-aged people, they're used to stuff. They're complacent, they're comfortable. So I think that demographic, it might be more challenging for them to change. But the younger generation are probably more apt to do it.
They're more apt to do it. So are you saying, like, because you're in corporate, are you seeing the hires, what are they looking like? Are these a lot of young people, or are these middle age? What's that looking like? And why do you think they're making that decision?
So I'm in sales. So I would say for me in where I work at, it's a nice mixture. The younger people are gravitating to the sales side of our business, but then the older folks, they're more gravitating towards the operations, the maybe middle management side of our business.
So why? I mean, I wonder, why are the older people, are they not as confident to go out and sell? Because it takes confidence to sell.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you've probably written books on sales. It does, right? There's a big part where you have to be confident, and I think too, sales can be unpredictable, right? I love sales, right? I've always gravitated towards that. So for me, the unpredictability is kind of exciting, but for some older people, it's not, right?
It's not, yeah.
But for the younger, I can see the younger guys, they like it because it's edgy, it's different, and you know, it's not as predictable as an ops position.
Yeah, got it. Honey, we're going to get ready to close out. And I want you to answer this because you've made a lot of pivots being in the music industry. So, and even now you have like a #1 hit playing on Watercolors. Absolutely. Shout out.
Yes, ma'am.
Every time I hear you in the car, I'll be like,
And I appreciate, even though I've been doing this 30 years, you have been part of it for 22 of those years. When I hear myself on the radio, I still feel like the 5 heartbeats. Mama, we on the radio. I won't let it get old. But what's bigger than that for me is you won't let it get old. It's just something about you calling and I'm hearing you scream, and it's genuine. You actually are just so excited about, you know, me continuing to be successful in music 30 years later. And it gives me the comfort to pivot and do different things because I know I got this cheerleader behind me. If your wife will support you like my wife support me, you got it made, brother.
Okay.
All the men out there, if you can just find the kingmaker in your wife. Sometimes it's there, but it's just suffocated by debt, doubt, lack of vision. But just what you got to do is you got to dig for the gold that's in your wife. And I found it, and you are a jewel.
oh, you're so sweet. No, I'm proud of you. I watch you make a lot of pivots. I watch you make a lot of changes. And for women, I think for women, like men, you guys want us to stay the same. But for women, we want to see you change. And watching you change has been, it's a turn on. Like, it just is. Anyway, all right. Until next time. Thanks you, G, so much for having us, for jumping on here with Navigate with us today and just kind of sharing your story. Can y'all give it up for Eugene? Thank you.
We're going to take a little break and come right back. Destiny Podcast.
Yes, it is, where we talk about real life issues on how to navigate life, how to navigate marriage, business, children, family, the whole thing, baby, okay? So you definitely want to make sure you tune in.
We appreciate you liking, sharing, and supporting the podcast. Let us hear from you. Guys, welcome back to Navigate Destiny Podcast. I'm Ben Tankard. That's my favorite person in the world, Jewel Tankard. And we're going to introduce this lovely young lady a little later here. But we are super excited that you are joining us because we're talking about different topics about pivoting. We're talking about pivoting in life, navigating through different courses and trying to see where are we going to go and how we end up at the right place at the right time. So welcome to the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, everybody. So, baby, you're right. It's like so many pivots that's happening in the world today. I don't know. I feel like the whole world is changing. Honestly, I feel like I probably made more pivots within the last year than I have my entire life.
But let me say this too.
Yes, baby.
Pivoting is okay, but also reverse is okay too.
Yeah.
There's no car that you want to own that the reverse doesn't work.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So reverse is good.
Yeah.
Reverse is part of the pivot. So sometimes when you pivot, that means going back, readjusting, and then moving forward. That's okay.
No, it is. And I think one of the things that I love about this last year for me, I think it was a real growth year for me. And I think it was a big pivot year for me. But I think me also being very aware of where I was and where I wasn't and recognizing, okay, girl, you do not feel okay. You know what I mean? And I think especially church people, we just all, I'm
so in
blessed.
Other words, you're saying
I'm blessed like child.
So in other words,
you was mad.
In other words, even though God is good
all the time,
you got to recognize when you tripping.
Listen. There was some stuff I was tripping on, but it was also some stuff that I think very much needed to change. Mm-hmm. And I think that I had just like gone along for a minute, and that's the dangerous thing about religion. It will have you just go along and not really assess, hey, where you at for real? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then how do we get from where I really am and then where I need to be? And that's what we're going to be talking about. And so, Kora, we are so excited you're on here. You look beautiful, girl. So, yeah, give it up for Kora. So, Kora, let's just get right into it. I want to know, first of all, how do you define pivot? And what were some of the most maybe challenging pivots that you had to make this year?
Okay, so I would define pivot as the ability to make the necessary changes, even in the unknown.
Yeah.
And so we've had to pivot quite a bit, my husband and I, and my entire family this last year, through a lot of different, like navigating a lot of different challenges. And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel good.
Yeah.
But you just have to be mature. Yeah. And I know we weren't going to get churchy, but lean on God, lean on the Word of God.
Yeah.
Some of the changes that we've had to make this year, I don't know, I know some of you may have seen, I'm helping my son out, and so my grandbaby has been staying with us, and I know I look very young to be a grandmother. I know.
So you're Mimi.
I'm a Mimi. But that's one of the, among so many other. And it's kind of like when it's time to pivot, so many different things hit you at once. And so you know, okay, like I can't do what I've done in the past. It's time to do something different. And for me, I'm actually a person that I shy away from. I like steady, consistent, and pivoting is something that is very scary for me. And so it's been a challenge, but just leaning on God and working our way through it.
Give us an example of a pivot.
Yeah, I'm about to say, come on.
That felt like you was like, oh, what
Okay,
is this?
so a lot of you know that my husband and I own a trucking company, and so that was doing really, really, really well for a long time, and then the market just kind of went down with box trucks, and so one of the pivots that we had to make is he actually had to go back to work, which was kind of like what you were saying, Dr. Ben, with like moving backwards. And you know, the thing about my husband is he's really quick to pivot. He doesn't mind. But for me, it's like devastating because I feel like, did we fail? Did we not do something right? And
So he came out of the workforce into being an entrepreneur. Now you get spoiled into entrepreneurship because we the boss.
Right.
Now he's got to go back to clocking in,
Right.
which is okay, but it's different for you.
Yeah.
So were you holding on to the reins there?
Well, actually, I like having consistent money more than anything, so I'm okay.
That's 100 right there.
Okay. I think for him, even though he's quick to make changes, I think for him it was kind of like, you know, okay, now I have to go back to work. So it was a little challenging for him because he did enjoy, you know, running the trucking company exclusively and handling all his business, and then having to kind of go back to where he came from. You know, sometimes when you have to go back, it can be a little embarrassing and humbling. So, but praise be to God, you know, he put his pride and ego aside, and he always does what he needs to do for the family. So I'm very proud of him for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, praise the Lord. So, you know, he was quick to make the change when we realized that we had to, like he had to go back to work.
So who realized the change needed to happen? Was it you because you handle most of the finances, or was it him? I'm just curious.
Here we go.
Money. I think it was me because I really go through the finances with a fine-tooth comb. And so for me, I just kind of realized like these contracts are eating away, like this business is kind of eating away at what we've built. Yeah. And at some point we kind of have to, so for me, that's the easy part because I'm not the one that actually had to go back to work. Right. But I think when he was kind of, you know, he's working in it every single day. And so I think for him, it was hard to see that there were certain things that were eating away from the trucking company. And that's why we had to make a change.
Did he get it right away, or the minute you said it, he's like, okay, or did it?
So I think as women, it's kind of hard to, like, when you are trying to explain something gently to your husband.
Right. It's gently for me.
As gently as you can. I feel like they don't hear us, Dr. Drew. I feel like they don't really hear us. So, I mean, I tried. I think the best thing to do was to kind of like present him with the evidence over a certain amount of time. Like, look, this is what it is. Yeah. But It took some convincing
It took some
that
time.
that's what it was that
Yeah.
needed to happen.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's
All I want to
kinda-
know is that when y'all be trying to tell us something, why y'all got to bring social distancing back in style?
I mean, I think, well, so for me, I feel like.
'Cause I'm going to touch you even when I'm mad at you.
Right. I feel like when I was trying to communicate to you, you just were like not paying attention. And I'm not a yeller, I'm not a screamer, I'm not any of those things. And so I'm going to talk pretty much like this. And so then what happens is I just start like shutting down. And so when I started shutting down and not wanting to talk and crying, then he was like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, bruh, you know? I was telling you, but I don't feel like you were hearing it, and I'm not a yeller. So I just started.
I'm just so used to you being so Detroit and such a thug.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true. That's
Come on,
true.
let's go.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
so
it's true. To your
from that until little kitten, I was like, where did this kitten come from? I'm
Right.
used to this lion.
yeah, no, for sure.
I had to get used to the kitten. Now the kitten is cool now. Because the kitten would do some things
Okay. Yeah, no, it definitely. I think that I ran into the little girl that still needed to be ministered to,
Right.
to be talked to be taken care of, and so I started to see it. I started to feel unprotected, which brought this little girl up, which actually caused me to have to go back and do some work to go back and say, okay, where did this come from? Where is this coming in at? And having some conversations with a few people in my life that are mentors, our spiritual grandmother and mentor, and she's like, okay, that's the little girl, and this is what's going on. And then I had to go back and present to him and say, hey, there's a part of me that's a thug, but there's a part of me that's very fragile. And so I think being able to communicate that, and because you hit places in your life that you've never hit before,
Right.
and I think not just looking at what you have presented yourself as, but then also being authentic to this is where I am right now. I don't want to be the evangelist, the intercessor, any of that. Like, I'm a broken little girl that needs to be heard. And so I think when we can communicate that with our spouses and with people that are close to us, and they help find us where we are, not where they think we are, right? But really where we are, then healing can start to come. So it took him a minute, and then so there was a breaking point, obviously, that made him say, "Oh."
I mean, what we did have those moments where, and I think I shared with you and Dr. Ben, during some counseling sessions that we, were sleeping in separate places. He was on the couch because of, when finances are tight.
Yeah.
In marriages, like it gets really tense, especially like if you're communicating and you guys are not hearing what each other are saying. And so that kind of was like,
Footnote, we're going to have to do a whole show on that. Because the guys, we're going to have to just go ahead and teach a seminar. On the more we get, the more money we're going to make.
Well, I think you guys do make.
You cut off the honey, you cutting off the money.
Well, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. No, I think sometimes you guys need that, not for a long time, but for a minute to understand, especially if you've had a really sweet wife, warm wife, Now, if you're married to a yeller and all of that, but if you're married to somebody pretty steady, and then all of a sudden you see brokenness, you have to take time to not just think about sex, and take time to say, wait, I'm married to a real person. And though she seems like a superhero to me and she's Superwoman, there is a part to her that's a little girl. And I got to tend to that little girl. And so that's what I would say to that. Okay.
All right, don't mess up your shopping trip now.
but okay, so after you guys sleep in separate places, this goes on for a little while. Then I guess he finally realized, if I don't go,
Well, so I think that kind of helped to open his ears a little bit to hearing what I was showing him. Like this is what it's looking like, and this is why we need to pivot in another direction. And I think once he kind of got that and seen the evidence and realized, because I don't think he was really convinced that it was like, you know, the contracts or the employees. And that's another thing about businesses is you still got to pay employees. I think once he's seen that, then he realized, you know, but it did take that separation, I think, to kind of break up the hardness a little bit.
The wake-up call. We need it. I'm joking, but we need it. I'm just glad you guys navigated through that, and I'm glad you are a part of our church. I'm glad that, you know, you guys are just such tremendous leaders, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for you all. We got some
for sure.
We got some questions we're going to take from our audience that you might be able to answer some of those questions.
Hey, baby, before we do that, I want to ask you for a minute, as a man, you said sometimes you guys need that wake-up call. So if that woman just goes along like a Stepford wife, everything's fine. At some point, something's not going to be fine. But what would you say to women to empower them to maybe really be honest? Because I know for me, because I wanted to make sure you knew I supported you and I loved you and I was your number one cheerleader, I had to reconcile, he can handle it. Talk to him at a greater level of intimacy about where you really are. It really took a minute for me to get there. What would you tell women? Because I think it's important, because if they don't, and we're seeing stuff like this all the time where all of a sudden just there's a break and it's like, what happened? So what would you tell women where that's concerned?
I would say that it's kind of a misnomer or misrepresentation, or I'm looking for the right word for it, but lack of sex is not the wake-up call of choice. When a man needs to hear something, you don't need to wait till that moment to cut him off to get his attention. We need to have conversation the whole time, all during the day. I mean, you wouldn't, women, one of the number one needs of a woman is to be taken care of financially. But if for some reason you was not hearing something that the man was saying, you wouldn't want him to starve you to get your attention. You wouldn't want him to let the car get repossessed so he could hear you. And so there has to be a way to have communication and ring the bell without it being sex for the guy or money for the wife.
That's good. That's good. So, but if she is talking along the way, then, because you said sometimes
she might need to just shake him and say, listen, I'm hurting. It's okay to do that. It's okay to, slap him around, just, but it doesn't have to, I don't think it has to be belligerent, but it has to be something that gets his attention. You might need to write him a letter, text him, bring him in before his pastor. One of the most terrifying things I could experience is when you take me before my spiritual father and tell on me, But I can tell on you too. You don't want to be in a marriage with somebody that doesn't answer to somebody. You need to be in a relationship where that person is bastardly, where they don't honor nobody. I'm scared of Dr. Layton. I'm scared of Bishop Wayne T. Jackson. I'm scared of Creflo Dollar. These are our leaders. I don't want you to tell them I'm messing up. I would get in line. Please don't call. I'll line up. Same way with our spiritual women in the family, so if you have a team, it doesn't take just a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise a marriage.
That's good. That's really good. That's important. So now let's broaden it out a little bit. You made a lot of pivots in your own business, which I'm very proud of what I'm seeing happen in your business right now. You have gone crazy on social media, and I know recently I said, oh my gosh, Kora, looks like every time I'm on Instagram, one of your cute reels are showing up, and I love the products. They're in my purse. They're in all the bathrooms and all the houses. I love them. but you started really on purpose pivoting and doing something that you're very uncomfortable with. You are not comfortable with posting on social media. It's not normal for you.
No.
But I think you realized that if your business was going to go to the next level, I don't care how good your product was, if people don't know that the product is there because you're not on social, then you weren't going to grow. Talk about that.
So one of the most challenging things for me is like networking and all of that. But I realized, watching you, even watching my husband, because he's a great salesperson, is just realizing that you have to build a community. And in order to do that, you have to put yourself out there. And so I'm learning, for me personally, pivoting means doing things that are uncomfortable, like being on this podcast right now. Yeah. However, I realize that what I have to offer is excellent. It's great. And I have to tell the community and build a community around it and get everybody involved in it. Because when I win, they win. And when they win, I win. And so...
That's good.
That's good. That's good. You started, so when you first started, you had one product in mind. And honey, I want to ask you this too. When you first started doing music, and I'll come back to you, Kora, when you first started doing music, was your thought, I'm about to do this one hit? Or did you have in your mind, I want to become a legend?
Well, I always wanted to be a legend. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I thought it was going to be from basketball. And so when I had to reframe my thinking, once the basketball career didn't work out because of the injury, but once I began to play music, it was really chapter by chapter, because I've tapped into a level of success musically each year that I never imagined.
Wow.
It's really truly been Ephesians 3:20.
Yeah.
He can do more than you can ask or think.
Yeah.
Because who would have known that I would have not just one gold record, but 15 of them.
Yeah.
Not just one platinum record, but 6 of them. And so it's the comma, and then just from music to comma pastor, comma day trader, comma pilot, comma podcaster. Now, God has a comma in your life if you just remain flexible with the pivots.
Yeah, that's really good, babe. Kora, when you started off, in your mind, was it like, I'm going to do one good shea butter and that's going to be it?
I thought it was just going to be a good shea butter. And then it really transformed, because what I started learning is that customers will tell you what they want. And so I did a shea butter, and you loved it and everybody else loved it. But then they was like, well, what else do you have? And so I realized that I wanted to do something a little bit different with the shea butter. I didn't want something as thick, and so I made the shea souffle. And then I got people that were saying, well, do you have a dry oil? I made a dry oil. And then they were saying, well, we really need hair products. And I'm like, okay. And every time I listened to what people were asking for and listening to what Holy Spirit was saying, it's like, okay, it got further and further. And so
that's powerful. That's powerful. Now, let me ask this, because you represent the all-American girl, the average person that can go from behind the curtain to in front of the curtain. Now, this superstar here, this girl, she can sell water to a whale.
That's right. I know that's right.
She can sell salt to a snail, and I've seen her take different businesses as a marketing genius in network marketing, and whatever she puts her hands to, it just blows up. Plus she's married to me, so
Absolutely,
she can just throw my name out there to get a few sales.
Absolutely, Daddy.
But for someone that did not come up with that sort of background to now be knocking it out the park, what can you say to Joe Blow homemaker that didn't know they could knit, didn't know they could make lotion, didn't know they could have a hair business? What would you say to them? Look in that camera and tell them.
I would tell you to believe in yourself, listen to what you have on the inside of you, ask God to present to you whatever is on the inside of you that you can give as a gift to people, and then use it and run with it. And that's what I was saying.
Wow. That's really good. Your children, they're watching all these pivots. They're watching the trucking company. They're watching Daddy go back to work. They're watching you start your business. They're watching you. I'm sure you had times where you were frustrated in your business. Then now you're become a content creator, doing a podcast yourself. I've seen you probably change way more than the average person, which I think is amazing over the last year. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can barely keep up. And I love that because there's not that many people I can say that about. But what do you think they're looking at you saying? Have you all had those conversations?
Oh, wow. Oh, Lord. Okay. So it's going to make me a little teary. I think that when your children see you stretching and challenging yourself, and they see that, oh, mom never does that. Mom is not like that. It puts a sense of pride in them, and it also makes them want to stretch themselves. So I notice a difference in my children, especially like Michael and Journey, and how they put themselves out there more now, and how they are proud of me, and how it stretches them to want to do bigger and better things. And it makes me happy that I'm listening to that voice within. I'm listening to Holy Spirit to do those things, because it's not just for me. It's for them and their children and their children's children. And so...
Wow. As we get ready to wrap here, 2 last questions. What part does faith play in your family navigating their destiny? And what's next?
So faith plays a tremendous part, because through the most challenging times, through the most tough times, and there are so many times when I just feel like I don't want to be Christian no more. I love that.
Hold up. You can't rush over that.
Not like that. But like sometimes when you're like, well, why? When I see everybody else succeeding and they don't live right, or or when you're dealing with, even as a church, when we're pivoting right now and we're doing different things, and you're like, well, why are those people, doing? It's the faith in God to know that nothing that you have done, nothing that you have gifted to God, back to God, is going to be in vain. And so that's what faith does for us as a family. It's like, it's not going to be in vain.
Good.
We have total faith that God is going to deliver all of his promises.
That's so
Wow.
good. Woo, that's good.
And what's next? If you're talking to, I'm not going to ask your age. I know better. But if you're talking to 20-year older Kora, what are you saying to?
We're gonna see fifth floor body care all around the world. It's gonna be major, honey. We're gonna be doing TikTok, selling out 2 million. Better than these people. Okay, all of that. We gonna see BBT logistics all around the world. Michael and Journey gonna have their own podcast. Market Mason content creators. It's gonna be major, and so that's what you will see.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Listen, I hope that this gave you some encouragement and inspiration, and hopefully sit with yourself. Take time to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what do I really want? And what am I willing to do? Who am I willing to become? What am I willing to learn? Where am I willing to go to do what I have to do, so that when I wake up, I can say I am fulfilled and I am happy first, hopefully because of your relationship with Jesus Christ, the Anointed One and His anointing, and then just with yourself, and taking time to really embrace the spiritual side of you and also the human side of you. And it's going to help you navigate through your entire life, baby.
And 3 things you got to do. You got to do this. I mean, I don't care what else you do. You got to do these 3 things as you navigate your destiny. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you. We'll see you next time.